everyone, welcome back to my class. This is Rumana Ali. I hope you all are doing well. In today's class, I'm going to start a chapter, Biotechnology, Principles and Processes. So what is the meaning of biotechnology? It can be defined as a branch of science. It's a recent branch of science, and the biotechnology is a process that can be defined as the process in which the living organisms or their enzymes or their molecules are isolated for the production of different products or for the other processes, that is for human welfare. So the biotechnology is a process where we are using the living organisms or their enzymes or their molecules to isolate the different kinds of products or to isolate the different things that are useful or that are beneficial for the human. This is about the biotechnology. This is the definition of biotechnology, and the father of biotechnology is Paul Berg. Paul Berg is the father of this branch of science called biotechnology. Now let us take one example to understand the application of this recent branch of science. So we all know that the beta cells of islet of Langerhans, they produces insulin. Insulin is a hormone that regulates the blood sugar level, that controls the level of the blood sugar. So if that insulin is not secreted properly by the beta cell, then this leads to a disease called diabetes, and the diabetic patients are advised to take insulin injections. So from where these injections are coming? Scientists, they isolated the beta cells from the human beings, and these beta cells are responsible for secreting a hormone called insulin. Now these beta cells are introduced into the bacteria called E. coli. Here the E. coli is a host where we are introducing the genes that are responsible for the secretion of a hormone called insulin, and that gene which is responsible or which is present in the beta cells, it is going to be isolated first, and that isolated gene is going to be introduced into the E. coli cell. Now after reaching or after introduction of the gene into the E. coli, the E. coli replicates. As soon as the E. coli replicates, the replication of the DNA also takes place, and in such a way the insulin can be produced in the body of the E. coli, and this insulin is going to be isolated again from the E. coli. It is packed in the form of injections or in the other forms, and that insulin is provided to the diabetic patient. So this is how the biotechnology is helpful or it is very beneficial for the human beings. The other example is vaccine. We all know about the vaccines. Vaccines are nothing but the weak or attenuated pathogens that are going to be introduced into our body to prevent the disease. Here we will take the example of polio vaccine. Polio vaccine is a vaccine which contains weak or attenuated pathogens. Now there is a risk if that vaccine in which the weak or attenuated pathogens are present, if among those pathogens, if one of the microorganisms will be in an active stage, then that can lead to a disease in the body of a human. So to reduce this risk, the scientists, they isolate a protein from the capsule of the pathogen. So actually we need a protein that is present on the capsule of a pathogen. So instead of inserting pathogens in the form of vaccines, we can introduce a protein that is present on their capsule. So the scientists, they isolated the protein from the capsule. If we talk about the protein, then it has to be a gene there. Gene is responsible to transcribe into proteins. So in this way, the gene is isolated, which is coded for the proteins, and these proteins, after the isolation, they are going to be introduced into the plants, and plants are the sites where these proteins are undergo a process called transcription. Now these are the proteins when they undergo a process of transcription in the plants, then we can easily isolate these proteins from the plant cells and we can use these proteins as vaccination. So in this way, the scientists developed edible vaccine. One such edible vaccine is banana. In banana, we can introduce the proteins that can fight against the different pathogens, and that protein, when it enters into the body of a human, it enters into the body as an antigen. When it is introduced into the human body, it acts as an antigen and it stimulates the production of antibodies that fight against the different diseases. In such a way, no pathogens are introduced, or no pathogens can be entered into the human body. Only the proteins are introduced. So this is a way how the biotechnology is applied in providing vaccines without any risks. The first recombinant DNA was made by the two scientists Cohen and Boyer in the year 1972. They isolate an antibiotic resistant gene from the organism Salmonella typhimurium. This gene is introduced into the plasmid of an E. coli. So suppose this is a gene or antibiotic resistant gene, and here this one is a plasmid. Now when this gene is introduced, or when it is entered into the plasmid, then it results in the formation of rDNA. In this way, recombinant technology can be applied to produce rDNA. Now, in the process of recombinant DNA technology, there are certain things that are required. The first one is enzymes. Enzymes are required in many different reactions of the technology called rDNA technology. And the other thing that is required are vectors. Vectors are the carriers of gene. They take the gene, and through the vector we can insert that gene into the body of a host. And hosts are also required, that too competent host. That means, so when we introduce the gene, the body of the host should be strong enough to accept that gene. So hosts are also required. And the other thing is techniques. There are certain techniques like gel electrophoresis, northern blotting, southern blotting, all such techniques we are going to learn now. And we will learn about the commercial production of rDNA. These are the things that are required. Enzymes are required, vectors, gene carriers, host are nothing but in which the gene is to be inserted, and there are certain techniques that helps in the process of rDNA technology. So the first thing that are required in the process rDNA technology is enzymes. Enzymes are of different kinds. The first one is lysing enzymes. These are the enzymes that helps to digest the cell wall, or that helps in the lysis of the cell. So if we are taking the plant cell shows the presence of cell wall, and if we want to take out the gene from the plant cell, then we need to reach the nucleus. The genes are present in the nucleus only. So to reach the nucleus, first we need to digest the cell wall, and the cell wall digestion can be done by the enzymes called cellulase and pectinase. As the cell wall of the plant is made up of certain compounds like cellulose and pectin, we need enzymes like cellulase and pectinase which can digest the cell wall of the plant cell. So after the cell wall, cell membrane is present, and cell membrane or plasma membrane is made up of lipids and proteins. So to digest the lipids and proteins, we require certain enzymes like lipases and proteases. Now if we are using animal cell, or if we want to isolate a gene from animal cell, then we require only lipases and proteases. to digest the cell membrane. Lipases and proteases are the enzymes that can digest the cell membrane, which is made up of lipids and proteins. Now, if we want to isolate a gene from fungal cell, so fungal cell also shows the presence of an outer covering called cell wall. The cell wall is made up of a material called chitin. To digest the cell wall of the fungal cell, we need an enzyme called chitinase. After the digestion of the cell wall, cell membrane is present. Again, lipases and proteases are the enzymes that helps in rupturing the plasma membrane or cell membrane. Now, if we are isolating a gene from bacterial cell, then the cell wall of the bacterial cell is made up of peptidoglycan. This peptidoglycan can be digested by an enzyme called lysozyme. Lysozyme is an enzyme that can even digest the whole cell. So these are certain enzymes that are required to digest the cell wall and to digest the cell membrane, so that we can easily isolate a gene from the nucleus. The next enzymes that we require are endonucleases. Endonucleases are the enzymes that can also be called as molecular scissors. These are the enzymes that make cuts in the DNA or that make cuts in the plasmid or in the vector, so that the gene can be easily inserted or gene can be easily introduced in them. These molecular scissors helps in cutting the gene and the vector for their combination. Now, this is a bacteria called E. coli. In the E. coli, genetic material, its own genetic material is present, and here we can find two complex defense mechanism. It shows natural defense mechanism because of the presence of two complex, and that two complexes are nothing but methylating agent and these endonucleases. Now let us see the role of endonucleases here. If this E. coli is affected by a virus, then this virus inject its DNA into the E. coli cells. Now if this DNA is injected into the E. coli cells, then endonucleases are the enzymes that can make cuts in the A-T combinations. Wherever it finds the combination of nitrogenous bases like A and T, it cuts the DNA. By cutting the DNA, it makes the DNA of, or it makes the genetic material of the virus inactive. But here there is a chance to cut its own DNA, because in the DNA of the bacterial cell also we can find the combinations like A and T or T and A. But because of the role of methylating agent, endonucleases can easily recognize the AT combination that is present in the viral genetic material. Now what happens? This methylating agent that is present in the E. coli, it adds methylated group either to adenine or to thymine. So after the addition of methylated group, this will not remain as AT combination. It will be either methylated A to T or methylated T to E. In such a way, endonucleases can only recognize the A to T combination. It did not recognize the combinations of methylated A to T or methylated T to A. So in this way, the endonucleases and methylating agent forms a two complex defense mechanism in the E. coli cells. So this is the role of an enzyme called endonucleases, which are also called as molecular scissors. They cut the DNA and make a DNA of the virus inactive. The next enzyme is alkaline phosphatase. Suppose if we want to use a plasmid as a vector, then the plasmid will be in a circular shape, and if we make a cut at any side of the circular plasmid, then it becomes linear. And here we can write the ends 5' end and 3' end. At 3' end we can find the presence of hydroxyl group, and at 5' end the phosphate group is present. Now after cutting this plasmid by using endonucleases, it becomes nuclear, but the phosphate group and the hydroxyl group has an ability to form a bond, and that bond is phosphodiester bond. After cutting also, this can make a phosphodiester bond again, but we want this plasmid to be in a linear shape so that the desired gene can be added. For example, this is a plasmid, circular plasmid. If we make a cut with the help of endonucleases, it becomes linear. Here the 3' end is present, here the 5' end is present. At the 3' end hydroxyl group is present, and at 5' end phosphate group is present, and these can make a bond again after cutting also. So after cutting also these can make a phosphodiester bond. When the bond is formed, again it becomes circular, but we want a linear plasmid to add a desired gene in it. Now in this case we need to remove the phosphate group which is present at the 5' end. To remove the phosphate group at the 5' end, we can use the enzyme called alkaline phosphatase. So this is the role of alkaline phosphatase enzymes, to remove the phosphate group of the linear plasmid. Now after the removal of the phosphate group, this linear plasmid is with hydroxyl group only. Now here the gene is present with the 3' end and 5' end. In the strand of gene also hydroxyl group and the phosphate group is present. As the phosphate group is present in the strand of a gene, it again forms a bond. This gene or the desired gene can be attached to this linear plasmid with the help of an enzyme called ligase. So the fourth type of enzymes are ligases that helps in attaching the desired gene with that of the linear plasmid. After the attachment, now to form a phosphodiester bond so that it again becomes circular, one more enzyme is required, that is phosphorylase, and this phosphorylase helps in adding the phosphate group at 5' end of this plasmid. In such a way, these are certain enzymes that are required to insert a desired gene into the plasmid, and this vector is ready to carry that gene into the body of the host. So these are certain enzymes. That's all for today. Meet you in next class. Thank you.